Today we are going to be talking with Steven Levitt. He is a tenured professor at the University of Chicago in economics. He studied economics at MIT, but took a very particular path. Wrote a groundbreaking book and best-selling book, Freakonomics, and then SuperFreakconomics, and gave a totally new look on the subject of incentives, ideas, and economics. Thank you very much, Steven, for being with us today.
Thank you, Alberto.
Why don't you explain us in a few words what is Freakonomics?
So I'd say Freakonomics is applying the basic ideas of economics, like you said, incentives, data analysis, markets, but instead of applying them to the usual topics like currency flows or macroeconomics, inflation, I apply it to everyday kind of activities like your real estate agent, whether your real estate agent is actually representing your best interests or is in fact ripping you off by trying to get you to sell your house much cheaper than you should. We applied it, for instance, to a crack cocaine selling gang, and we looked at the way that the gang actually looked a lot like a firm and how incentives worked and how they motivated their workers and how the lack of ability to enforce the law led to violence to be the way in which they used, violence became the tool for enforcing property rights. We've looked at questions like terrorism. So working with a British bank, I've tried to see whether by looking at your bank account and what kind of checks you're writing in your ATM activities, whether or not we could figure out who likely terrorists would be. And the surprising answer probably said, actually, we're pretty good. We actually have some ability to detect terrorists. And so I basically have applied economics and the thinking of economics to any subject that kind of pops into my head and tried to make sense of the world around.
You said that in the business world, we generally try to answer even the questions we don't know the answers. And that's a very different from what you do at the university. Can you explain us what you meant?
So in academic, all the awards to academics come from publishing papers. And the way you get papers published in academic journals is by answering a question, oftentimes a very boring, uninteresting question, but answering it really, really well, so that no one can criticize your answer and that you have the answer. And so that's, so my life in academics, 15 or 20 years, I spent all my time trying to answer boring questions well. Then we wrote Freakonomics, and suddenly, even though it's not really a business book, somebody, some genius at the publishing company decided to call Freakonomics a business book, which immediately made me a business expert, which made me qualified to try to answer questions for businesses. So I began talking with businesses, and what I realized was that I kept on trying to be an academic. I kept on trying to answer really convincingly the questions that businesses faced, when that wasn't really what businesses needed. Because the beauty of an academic is that you have the freedom to answer any question you want. No one tells you what you need. But the difficulty, the hardship of running a business, owning a business, is time doesn't wait for you. You have 100 questions you need answered that week, and you just have to do the best you can and muddle along in the complexity of things. And so in that regard, I think what I've seen, there are two things. Number one is that in business, you come to accept the fact that you just are going to do things and you don't know why, and you got so much on your plate that more or less the answer becomes, I'll just do whatever I did yesterday. Today, I will do whatever I did yesterday.